There is an island on this planet that you will never be allowed to visit, not because it's too remote, not because there are no flights, but because someone or something is actively keeping you out. And in at least one case, that someone has been doing it for 60,000 years. If you sail toward it, you can be arrested. In one place, you could be killed. In another, you could spark an epidemic that wipes out an entire people. And in one extraordinary case, even most scientists are permanently banned from stepping foot on it. Today we're going as close as anyone legally can to the most forbidden islands on Earth. We like to believe that the world is fully mapped, that every coastline has been photographed, every island catalogued, every coordinate searchable, satellite imagery, GPS, digital maps in our pockets. It feels like there are no more secrets left. But an island is different. An island is already cut off, already surrounded by a natural barrier, already separated from the rest of the world by water that most people will never cross. And that isolation makes it the perfect place to protect something, to conceal something, or to leave something entirely alone. The islands you're about to hear about are forbidden for very different reasons, but they all share one thing in common. Someone decided that keeping people out was more important than letting people in. Let's start with the most dangerous one. North Sentinel Island sits in the Bay of Bengal, part of India, is Andaman Archipelago. From the air, it looks like paradise. Dense green jungle, white sand beaches, clear shallow water glowing turquoise in the sun. And if you tried to land there, you would almost certainly be killed. The island is home to the Sentinelese, one of the last truly uncontacted peoples on Earth. Anthropologists estimate they have lived there for around 60,000 years. They predate agriculture. They predate written language. They predate the Egyptian pyramids by tens of thousands of years, while the rest of humanity built cities, empires, factories, and nuclear weapons. The Sentinelese stayed where they were, on their island, alone, and they intend to keep it that way. Every known attempt at contact has been met with arrows. The Sentinelese are skilled archers, and they do not hesitate. Boats approaching the shore are warned off immediately. There is no negotiation, no attempt at dialogue, just a clear, consistent message that has lasted for millennia. You are not welcome here. In 2018, an American missionary named John Allen Show paid local fishermen to take him close to the island. He believed he had a calling, that he was meant to bring his faith to one of the last uncontacted tribes on Earth. He had studied the island, he had prepared. He had attempted smaller approaches before and had been driven away. He went back anyway. On his final attempt, he was killed. His body was never recovered. The Indian government, which controls the surrounding waters, did not respond by condemning the tribe. Instead, it reaffirmed the protection of the island. Under Indian law, it is a criminal offense to approach within 3 nautical miles of North Sentinel Island. Violators face arrest, fines, and imprisonment. The law exists not to protect outsiders from the Sentinelese, it exists to protect the Sentinelese from outsiders, because the greatest threat to them is not the outside world's weapons, it's microbes. The Sentinelese have lived in isolation for so long that they have no immunity to many diseases that are routine for us. Influenza, measles, even the common cold. A single infected visitor could trigger an epidemic that devastates the entire population in a matter of weeks. The island is not forbidden because they are dangerous. It is forbidden because we are. And beyond the arrows, beyond the legal restrictions, there is something else that makes North Sentinel Island extraordinary. We know almost nothing about life there. Their language remains undocumented. Their beliefs, their social structures, their daily routines, all hidden. For tens of thousands of years, they have maintained one of the most complete cultural isolations in human history. Now let's move to a different kind of forbidden island. Diego Garcia lies in the middle of the Indian Ocean, thousands of kilometers from major population centers. From above, it looks like a footprint in the sea, a curved coral atoll enclosing a calm lagoon. It is also home to one of the most strategically important military bases on the planet, jointly operated by the United States and the United Kingdom. Civilians are not allowed to visit. There are no tourist visas, no commercial flights, no cruise ships stopping by. It does not exist in the travel world. But what makes Diego Garcia truly controversial is not just the base. It's what happened before the base was built. In the 1960s, Diego Garcia was home to the Chagosians, a community of families who had lived there for generations. Farmers, workers, children growing up on the island's beaches. It was not empty. When the decision was made to turn Diego Garcia into a military installation, the inhabitants were removed. Families were given limited notice to leave. They were transported to Mauritius and the Seychelles. Many struggled for decades in poverty, cut off from their homeland. Declassified documents later revealed language that described the islanders in dismissive, dehumanizing terms. The base went on to play a role in major military operations, including conflicts in the Middle East. There have been allegations that it was used for covert detention programs during the War on Terror, though details remain disputed and partially classified. Diego Garcia exists in plain sight, visible on satellite imagery, mentioned in international legal disputes, and yet functions in a kind of strategic obscurity. Its remoteness makes it ideal for operations few people will ever witness. If North Sentinel Island is isolated by culture and law, Diego Garcia is isolated by power. Then there is Surtsey. Surtsey rose from the sea in 1963, off the southern coast of Iceland. Fishermen watched as volcanic eruptions beneath the ocean's surface pushed rock and ash upward until a new island broke through the waves. For the first time in recorded human history, scientists could observe the birth of an island from nothing, and they realized something immediately. If humans rushed in, they would contaminate it. Seeds would cling to boots, bacteria would travel on clothing. The opportunity to observe natural colonization from absolute zero would be lost forever. So Iceland closed it. Access to Surtsey has been strictly limited ever since. Only a small number of approved researchers are allowed to land, and only under carefully controlled conditions. Every visit is documented. Every precaution is taken to prevent outside contamination. Over the decades, life arrived slowly. Bacteria carried by wind, mosses and lichens clinging to bare rock, seabirds nesting and bringing seeds in their droppings. Gradually, grasses and flowering plants spread. Seals began resting on its shores. A functioning ecosystem assembled itself step by step. Surtsey is now a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Its value lies precisely in the fact that most of humanity has been kept away from it. It is a living timeline of how life begins on new land, something that can almost never be observed under such pristine conditions. Not all forbidden islands are about danger or secrecy. Some are about discipline. Beyond these three, the list continues. Heard Island, deep in the subantarctic Indian Ocean, is Australian territory. It is one of the most remote places on Earth, dominated by glaciers and an active volcano. Reaching it requires government permission and months of logistical planning. Poveglia Island, near Venice, served as a quarantine station during the Black Death and later housed a psychiatric asylum. It remains closed to the public, surrounded by stories and local unease. Several of Japan's Izu Islands have faced evacuation orders due to toxic volcanic gas emissions. Some remain partially or entirely uninhabited, officially unsafe for permanent life. Niihau, the westernmost inhabited Hawaiian island, has been privately owned since the 19th century. A small community of native Hawaiians lives there with limited outside contact. Visitors are not permitted without explicit invitation. Each of these islands draws a line. Different reasons, same result. So what happens if you ignore those lines? In the case of North Sentinel Island, approaching within the restricted zone is a criminal offense under Indian law. In the case of Diego Garcia, trespassing on a joint military installation can carry severe legal consequences. In the case of Surtsey, unauthorized landing violates Icelandic environmental protection laws. But beyond legal consequences, there is something simpler and more immediate. These places are remote, harsh, unforgiving. There are no nearby hospitals, no rapid rescue teams, no infrastructure designed to save reckless visitors. The law says stay out. The geography says the same thing. And maybe that's why Forbidden Islands feel so powerful. We live in a world where almost everything feels accessible, every destination photographed, every landscape reviewed, every experience packaged and sold. It can feel like the edges of the map have disappeared. And yet, scattered across the oceans, there are still places that remain closed, not because they cannot be reached, but because they should not be. North Sentinel Island reminds us that isolation can be a choice and a successful one. Diego Garcia reminds us that remoteness can be used as a tool of power. Surtsey reminds us that sometimes, the most responsible human action is restraint. These islands are not just restricted coordinates on a map. They are boundaries, cultural, political, ecological, and they reveal something about us. In a world that tries to access everything, document everything, monetize everything, there are still places that resist. And maybe the fact that some islands remain beyond our reach is not a limitation. Maybe it's a reminder that the planet is still bigger than our desire to explore it.